Hey Dunchbags, what's going on? It's Landon Remixes here, and welcome to my review of the debut album from Swedish DJ and producer Alesso. This one's called Forever. And I've definitely got mixed feelings about this album. A while ago when I had found out Alesso was finally putting out a debut album, I was really hyped, and I've been a fan of Alesso ever since I first started listening to Swedish House Mafia back in 2012, and was an even bigger fan when the If I Lose Myself remix came out the following couple months. The same month, actually, I think that the Swedish House Mafia broke up in March 2013. But yeah, I was really excited to hear this record. Alesso's definitely got a good style for progressive house. A couple years ago he released the song Years, and he had another song with Ryan Tedder called Calling, If I Lose My Mind for that matter, with Ryan Tedder. He also has a new song with Ryan Tedder on the album called Scars, and I'm going to get into the whole album as a whole. If you don't want to hear a review of me talking anything bad about Alesso, not as a person, but as on this record, you should probably go away now, because this album was kind of a disappointment to me. So I'm going to get into a few reasons why in just a moment. So first of all, this album kind of seems like a jumbled mess. Honestly, when I first saw the reviews popping up for this, I was really upset about the negative reviews it was getting, but then when I finally listened through it, I really do understand why so many negative reviews are coming in for this record. Like I said, honestly, this record just seems like an entire jumbled mess full of singles and maybe tracks that didn't make it as singles, which is even worse. There's a few solid tracks on here, but I really don't respect the fact that the If I Lose Myself remix is put back onto this record after a year and a half of it being out. 2 years and a half for that matter, it's been out. And Under Control, which released about a little under 2 years ago, I think. It also made it onto Calvin Harris's album, which I think was a more likely candidate for the song probably should have fit on there a little better than it would have fit on this record, because it does sound a little bit more of Calvin Harris's style than Alesso's. And although I do love Alesso, this album just really didn't live up to what I wanted it to be. The album starts off with Profondo and Payday. I don't really appreciate the track Payday, one, because it's designed to be part of a video game soundtrack and seemed like it was just kind of thrown onto this. For two, it sounds a little bit too much like Tear the Roof Up, which I didn't really like that much to begin with. Although I don't want to diss on Alesso's electro style, I just really didn't like these two tracks. Heroes with Tove Lo. Although this isn't a bad track, I had heard it way too much on the radio, and by this point it isn't one of my favorite tracks, even though it, like I said, it isn't a bad track and I did really love it when it first came out. It's just been so overplayed by this point that I just really can't enjoy it. There's Cool, and that one's a little bit of a refresher. Although Alesso got into a scandal about stealing some samples from someone on this track, it's really not a big deal, and this ended up being one of my favorite tracks. It's definitely groovable and danceable, and that's one of the things that I really wanted to find in this record, melodic and danceful, rather than what we ended up getting. Scars featuring Ryan Tedder, that one was a little bit of a disappointment. Although he does take a little bit of a different route, I just couldn't really appreciate this as a track. One of my favorites, Sweet Escape with Sirena. Definitely enjoyable. One thing that I noticed right off the bat is that it does sound a lot like Freeze Time by Mance. You might not know that song, and I might be pronouncing his name completely wrong, but that song released on Revealed Recordings this year, and they have a very similar melody line and chord progression. Although Alesso's been teasing this track, Sweet Escape, for a couple years now, and just didn't decide to release it until this year when the record came out. I don't think Mance did it on purpose to try to take the melody from that track, but I also don't think Alesso stole it. It just ended up being a lot alike, which made it slightly less enjoyable, but this, regardless, is one of my favorite tracks on the record. Beautiful vocals, which is one of the things that I love about Alesso, and his original tracks like Years and Lose My Mind with Ryan Tedder. Those ones are super emotional and just shows off Alesso's talent, sheer talent for that matter, better than most of this new record did. Most of the other tracks are pretty generic. Wasn't very appreciative of most of the tracks toward the end of the record. There's If It Wasn't For You, and that song's definitely really good. It released as a single, but it wasn't really popular, didn't get any radio play, so Kind of a shame, even though that was honestly one of the best tracks on the record. Just didn't really get too much attention. And finally, the album closes off with this kind of epic orchestral outro called Immortale, and I feel like this is just a very, very good closer, and it's a much better closer than the opener Profondo was. And yeah, I just really enjoyed this, and definitely a cool track that you can listen to and enjoy to close the record out. Like I said, it's just not very easy to enjoy a record like this. Very, very generic, mainstream appeal, which is, I think, what the record's kind of centered around. After Alesso had that single with Hovlo, they really just wanted to give him a style like that, and I feel like that wasn't very okay to switch that up. The electro tracks are very undesirable, and ended up just being kind of an unhypeable pop EDM album, and it just really wasn't as great as I was expecting. And would have liked to give this an awesome rating. Would have liked to enjoy this a lot more than I did. Probably won't be buying this album, even though I would have loved to support Alesso. I already have a couple of the tracks on other albums that have come out over the years. If I Lose Myself remix is on One Republic's Native. Under Control with Calvin Harris is on his last album. That's already 2 of the 14 tracks on the record. Not necessarily a short album, but a couple of those are an intro and an outro. Then along with the repeats, we're left with about 10 new tracks, minus Heroes. Like I said, just a bit of a disappointment. I was really looking forward to something else, a little bit more unique and interesting on Alesso's first album. So I think the highest I can really give this record is a solid 4. Like I said, just really not an extremely enjoyable record. I did enjoy a few of these tracks, but it just gets really boring to hear kind of the same stuff over and over again, which is what I'm kind of scared about with the new Project 46 album that's coming out this month, actually, on Ultra Records. Or actually, I think it's next month in July. But I think it's going to be a good record. They cut out a few of the interesting tracks that I really liked, but I feel like this could definitely be a better contender than Alesso's album if it unlocks its full potential. Like I said, a little bit better than Steve Aoki's album, a little bit less mainstream appeal, and a little bit more musical ability. Anyway, Alesso, Forever, what do you think about the album? Make sure to listen to it if you haven't yet. Don't go completely off my opinions and base your opinions based on that. Just go ahead and listen to it for yourself. I'm just here as a standing ground to kind of mark my thoughts on the record. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this little review. I will see you guys later. Peace.